Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into true crime cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of true crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm Charnell.
And I currently am Megan.
But you know who we actually are? I'm Oodle Doodle.
And I am Gumbo Yaya.
See a previous episode to understand why that is.
A couple of previous episodes. Mine goes way back to the trunk murders.
That does. But mine was just the last episode.
It was.
And did I say it right? Doodle Oogle?
Oogle Doogle.
Oh, Oogle.
Oogle Doogle.
I think it was Doodle Oogle.
Doodle Oogle. My tongue doesn't work right now. Yeah, I'm going to go with Gumbo Yaya. Have you used that on your husband yet?
Not yet.
Ladies, every time your husband says something or asks you to do something, mumble really quietly under your breath, Gumbo Yaya.
Or if your husband fucking mumbles and doesn't want to admit that he mumbles, then when he mumbles, just say, "Oh, did you say Gumbo Yaya?"
And he'll be like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
No, Gumbo Yaya.
Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. I think because I kind of like jumped down his shit the last time he was mumbling. So I think he's trying to do better about, not mumbling, but I'm waiting for it. It's going to happen.
Because you're like, enunciate.
Mm-hmm.
God gave you a tongue.
Bitch. No.
He gave you a tongue. You can use it for more than two things. The third thing is to enunciate the words.
Right. But I appreciate the first two. Just saying.
Amen, sister. Cheers.
And before we get started, let's shake our Greedy.
All right.
Got the bones. Got the skulls. Okay.
What are you giving me today?
I'm giving you a listener pick.
Oh.
I'm giving you a listener pick that this person suggested this case because they have suggested it to other podcasts.
Okay.
And they have not covered it. But this person...
Are we allowed to use a name or no?
We are allowed to use the name of our listener who requested it, Maddox.
Maddox,
So,
okay.
Thank you for the suggestion. Maddox has a dear friend who was friends of the victim today.
Oh, shit.
Yep. So, and
we've had a couple of these lately.
We have. Yep. And so I wanted to just make sure that we covered it as well as information available will allow us to. It is a horrific murder. I'm going to tell you, there are details out there online. If you are someone who is into really nitty gritty details about someone's murder, they're available. I'm going to tell you what I need to tell you so that you can understand how horrific it is without doing what I feel like is an injustice to the victim of putting too many details out there about her very, very brutal death.
Gore and brutality doesn't bother me if it's done in an appropriate investigative way. Mm-hmm. It bothers me when they sensationalize it.
Yes.
So I would always be inclined to maybe look up to see a little bit more specifics. But if it's done in a way that makes it like cinematic or to offend the victim, then I don't like that. It makes my tummy hurt.
I'm going to give you enough that I don't think you'll want to look up anymore.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm. So that's the perfect amount for me.
Yes. So Kimberly Proctor is our victim today, and she was born on January 1st, 1992. This case takes place in Victoria, British Columbia.
God, she's young.
Very young. Her parents were Lucy and Fred Proctor. At the time of her murder, Megan, she was only 18 years old.
Okay.
So her parents, Lucy and Fred, Lucy was a Walmart manager. Fred was a diesel mechanic, and they called her Baby New Year because she was born January 1st.
Baby New Year.
Baby New Year.
I love that.
Yep. And they also called her Kimmy as well. She had a passion for animals. She raised everything from lizards, rabbits, mice, hamsters, cats. She loved every animal.
Okay. Some of those animals don't get along.
They don't, but she had special...
Cats and lizards and rats.
Her parents said that she actually had a ton of like cages in the garage because she was always filling them with her friends.
Okay.
Listen.
Oh my God. Filling them with her friends. You mean the pets?
The pets. Yeah. No. Oh, sorry. True crime podcast.
With some of the shit that we deal with, filling them with her friends means Elmira from the Animaniacs.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to hug you and love you and kiss you forever.
You're so right.
Also, I would never put you in a cage.
Her animal friends. I would fit, but I appreciate
you. This is no lie, you guys. See a picture from our site. Like, she's so tiny.
I
could put her right in she could fit on the wheel.
I could.
Scampering about.
But I
give me wine. I need it in the little sucker thing on the water tube.
Will wheel for wine.
Will.
I need it on a shirt.
With a hamster.
Yes.
Will wheel for wine.
Merch. There it is.
Son of a bitch. Y'all get your pocketbooks out for Christmas presents.
Will wheel for wine.
Will wheel for wine.
Here we go. Yes, thank you for that clarification. She was putting her animals safely in cages so that they wouldn't eat one another, for sure.
Good. I didn't hear you say too many reptilian things. Okay.
Just lizards. Yeah, lizards. I don't know.
Well, those are reptiles.
They are. That's the only one that I mentioned.
No snaky things. Lizards tend to with the long tongue and the flies. Snakes tend to with the unhinged jaws and the furry animals in it.
For sure.
It ruins it.
So she did love, speaking of furry animals, though, she loved cats. And when she was young, she wore cat ears to school. Isn't that precious?
It's my little one.
But
she wears the little headbands with ears and
with
stuff
the
on
cat
them. She's not a furry, though. She's 9.
No,
but
I got you.
Yeah, okay.
It's freaking adorable. And that's exactly what Kim did as well.
Okay, love it.
Unfortunately, Megan, kids teased her about her cat ears because kids can be dicks.
Oh.
And
well, I don't like that.
They meowed at her in class. And here's the thing. They never let up as years went on. So
they kept the thing?
Yes, they kept it going.
Kitty Kimmy?
Mm-hmm. So she was bullied throughout her life, her mother recalls. And also Kim had an attention deficit disorder. Okay?
Okay.
She also would panic a bit. She had some social anxiety.
I wonder
going
why.
on. That's just it.
Did she have social anxiety before she was horribly bullied?
I highly doubt it. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm just.
Well, this just makes me feel bad because you have a unique child too who's super arty and stuff. And my daughter my youngest she'll wear the cat ears and whatever into school and not give a shit.
Yes, I have one that's super introverted and shy. I wouldn't call him so much artistic. He plays baseball. He's super into baseball.
Is he our hunter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
I have several that are, but
yeah,
he is really into it. But yes, he's just more reserved and doesn't super love people in general. I
think it's one thing.
He doesn't love the drama of people.
Me
you know
either.
what I mean?
Me either. I think it's one thing to have a young kid get kind of picked on for wearing whatever, the costume or whatever she wanted to wear. But the fact that it perpetuated, do these people have nothing better to do?
It did. It perpetuated, and then her anxiety grew. Her parents did try some anti-anxiety medication, but it, as a quote from her mom, it zombied her out. So they did not continue with it. They didn't like it.
I've heard of that.
And so what they end up doing as a solution is they transferred her to an alternative school called Pacific Secondary to a more individualization attention.
Yeah, but that often has its own connotation and its own set of,
Well, it's interesting that you say that because my next sentence is this school attracted a variety of troubled kids.
Of course it did. It's an alternative school because it is an alternative to a regular education.
Correct. Yep. And they're in Langford at this point in time, which was described as kind of like a quiet suburb of Victoria. And one of those troubled kids that was there was a kid named Cruz Wellwood.
I like the name Cruz.
Cruz Kruse. Cruz comes from a difficult childhood. In 2001, his own father went to prison for the sexual assault and murder of a 16-year-old girl. So Cruz's father was Robert Raymond Dizwan. He sexually assaulted and murdered a 16-year-old girl.
Jesus. Way to put that right out there.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you a little bit more about her, but there's not a ton of information out there about this 16-year-old girl because of her heritage, and it really pisses me off. But we will get to it more at the end. But I just want you to know in the beginning that Cruz comes from a really hard background.
A rough family with a father who is a convicted murderer.
Mm-hmm. And he later said that he clearly understands what his father had done, but he's really seldom discussed it. He had been involved in a variety of incidents and being caught in it, which is how he ended up at the alternative school, from smoking pot to stealing money from mailboxes, petty thefts, things like that, by the time he was 16.
Okay.
So I'm going to also insert another.
Again, just throwing this out there, why I'm sorry to her parents, but you have to really carefully consider if you're going to send your child to an alternative school, why you might do that.
It sounds
Bullying
like
not be the right reason to do that.
It sounds like on top of the bullying, there was then just this anxiety that she had, her ADHD, her attention deficit disorder, all of that just came to this whole plan, whether it was the school's idea or the parents' idea, I'm not sure, that she would thrive better in the alternative school.
Okay.
Here in Michigan, our alternative schools are not necessarily the better option. I don't know how
They've
it was
become better now that we
British
have
Columbia.
now that we have online availability with them, because most of them basically are online schools. It used to be that if you had the behavioral problems, you were at the alternative school kids, but that wasn't the intention. It's just what happens.
Yep.
So I'm sorry whether it's politically correct or not, but if you are in an alternative school setting, things are going to be rougher. You're going to be dealing with children who have more trauma, who have more exposure to either criminal elements or traumatic backgrounds. And that's where we are with it. And that's what it sounds like has happened here.
That's 100% what happened here. Yep. So in the 5th grade, Cruz met the other person that I would like to introduce right now, the other perpetrator.
Okay.
A kid named Cameron Moffat. All right. So they're in the 5th grade art class together. They bonded over their mutual disdain for the art teacher. And I will say Cruz was actually very intelligent. Cam was kind of a slow learner. He suffered from ADHD-A. And a psychiatric report later would reveal that Cam had been sexually abused since age 4, but it was not publicly revealed by whom he had been sexually abused. So he's struggling. As a child, Cameron began jumping out of his bedroom window at night until it was barred, probably to get away from his perpetrator, if I had to take a guess.
Kind of what it sounds like.
He resisted counseling and medication. He began He began lashing out at home and cutting himself to relieve stress.
Normal. Cutting is super normal.
Yes, and gaining control.
Yeah, that's any of you that have cutters at home or find out, don't freak out. Your child or teenager is trying to gain control over something in their life, and you should just go contact a counselor.
He was increasingly troubled at school. He was bringing knives to class. Cruz seemed to be the only kid that understood what Cam was going through. So they kind of did sounds like some trauma bonding.
I was just going to say trauma bonding. I love you. It's exactly, we know the words, the lingo. It sucks.
It
sucks.
Does. It does. But that is what happened.
Because they don't give each other good advice unless one of them is engaged heavily in counseling.
Yep. Cam later said that Cruz might as well be his brother. All right. Sure. They skipped school together. They smoked pot together. They played World of Warcraft. They surfed porn sites together.
Wait, what? No.
Yeah, they did.
We do a lot of things together, but that is not one of them. We don't do that one.
No, if we did, though, it would probably be to laugh about things that are happening. I don't know that we would do it erotically.
For sexual purposes, I 100% agree with you. It would be to find a brain bath.
Yes, it would. But despite frequent acting out, they never were perceived as a serious threat. All right. Okay. In February 2009, Cruz posted an entry in a WordPress blog, which WordPress is actually the domain that we use for our website, Megan.
Oh, that's why it sounds familiar. Thank you, WordPress.
So it was entitled, quote, "This is by Cruz, early warning signs of a serial killer."
No.
End quote. This is the blog that he posted. He listed common traits including animal abuse, fascination with fire, abandonment by a father, and an intense interest in sadomasochistic I can never say that word ever.
S&M.
Just
say S&M.
S&M porn. The particular, and then this is his actual quote. "The particular thing is that I meet all 14 criteria," end quote, "of a serial killer," he blogged. Apparently, though meeting all criteria makes it unlikely for the subject to be a serial killer, I suppose only time will tell. Spoiler alert, he doesn't end up being a serial killer, just a fucking murderer.
Okay.
By 2009.
So he failed at that too.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
So rude. I'm sorry.
By 2000, it's okay. We don't feel sorry for him anymore.
No, we
Once
don't.
you find out what this fucker does, you're not going to feel sorry for anything.
I'm already not liking that you just said the thing that we know about serial killers is that they like to cause harm to animals. And you just mentioned to me that our gal is an animal lover.
Loves them. Yes.
Okay. So I have some concerns about what's going to happen next.
By 2009, Kim, Cruz and Cam had become part of the same small group at Pacific Secondary Alternative School. The teens in Langford enjoyed a great bit of independence. They were kind of able to come and go when they pleased. They got to where they wanted to go with double-decker buses. You know, they went to the mall. They smoked a lot of pot, and they were being teens, right? At night, they continued to party into the wee hours, online, chatting and flirting. They spent a lot of time online. This episode is a really good cautionary tale about online communication.
Remind me of the year.
2009.
Okay.
Is where we're at
recent.
right now. Where we're at. Yep.
It feels recent.
Yeah, but yeah. For a while, Kim dated a boy named Zach, who was another member of the little group, and he was really, really good friends with Cruz. All right. But their little soiree ends, as is typical in high school, and Zach breaks up with Kim. She is pretty devastated,
Sure.
of course. And when we're devastated, what do? We
Drink?
seek out our friends.
Oh,
that's
sorry.
what we do when we're devastated.
That was a terrible coping mechanism. I recognize it and apologize.
Okay. But what Kim did was...
You call your BFF?
She does. She seeks out Cam and Cruz, mostly through Messenger, like online. I mean, we're 2009.
That's how kids
right?
communicate now.
Yeah. So
I'd
they're
show up
online.
here, like with
course.
Kleenex and mascara, like run down my
Yes.
face.
Yes.
Charnell. Yeah, that's
Right.
not what they did.
But they're in this point in time, they are just talking online. And the thing is that in this moment, Cam decides to confess to Kim that he likes her. He gives her compliments. He
Wait,
tells
in
her,
a moment of vulnerability, when somebody has just broken a girl's heart, a guy decided this was the time to profess his love?
You've got it.
Weird.
Hit the nail on the head. This is not a tale as old as time.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have some texts. We'll get to all the texts that we have, but we have some texts that tell us that Cam said, quote, "There aren't many beautiful things I've seen, but I must say you're one of them. And I'm going to point out anytime that I am quoting one of these idiots, nothing is spelled correctly and it's very hard to decipher." And I'm not even talking text lingo. I mean, they thought they were spelling out the whole fucking word and they weren't. They were spelling it out, but not correctly.
They don't grade you on spelling in school anymore, Charnell.
Oh, they not, especially not over Microsoft Messenger.
Apparently not.
They weren't. She replied, Kim was so sweet. She didn't want to make anybody feel bad. All right. So when Cam tells her how beautiful she is,
I see you, ILYT.
close.
Oh,
She wrote, "Aw, thanks," but thanks was spelled with an X,
of course.
and then a little smiley face. All right.
That is not a good response.
That is, thank you, but I'm not interested.
correct.
Mm-hmm. Kim,
If you respond, I love you, and they say thank you, are you kidding me?
Kim responded, or excuse me, Kim was more interested in Cruz, not in Cam.
Oh.
The two had kind of become close during her painful split from Zach. They were chatting and they were texting a lot. Cruz was still close with Zach. And Kim told her friend, there's another friend in the friend group named Samantha Kennedy. So Kim told her friend Samantha that, you know, being so close with Cruz made her, it was like an easy transition. It kind of lessened the pain of losing Zach because Zach and Cruz were so close, right? Samantha just kind of warned that, you know, I get that being friends with Cruz is making an easier transition over Zach, but just make sure that you don't lead him on, because that could be bad.
Okay. This is good friend advice.
It is good advice. Yep. So during one of the online chats, Cruz told Kim that he felt more open around her than other people. He said, quote, "I can't lie to you. It makes me feel too guilty. Normally I can, but you make me feel very honest for some reason." And Kim replied with a laugh and what was considered at the time a confused emoji.
Yeah,
All right.
I got it.
Mm-hmm. So she wrote,
Like,
"Ha."
what?
Yeah, she wrote like, haha, thanks, I guess. You know, like confused emoji.
Yeah.
So online, the two start sharing insecurities that they couldn't share with one another in person. Kim told Cruz that she felt short and pudgy, which, by the way, Kim is beautiful. She was not short and pudgy. She was gorgeous. And Cruz reassured her, "You're beautiful the way that you are."
Did Kim want attention?
I mean, maybe. What teenage girl doesn't.
Yeah, but what tall, like thin, beautiful girl refers to herself as short and pudgy unless she actually is?
And I actually don't know her height. I've just seen pictures of her, of course, and she is thin.
And she's gorgeous.
And she's beautiful. So Kim tried to joke a little bit with Cruz about his schoolyard, as it was reported, schoolyard nickname. They called him the Spaz.
I get you. Yeah. I see you.
Right. So she's kind of trying to make light of this, and he said that the wounds ran deeper than she thought. That he's like, it wasn't actually a nickname, it was an insult, and that he had really big issues with people. He said that he still does, but he knows how people work and what makes them tick, so it's easy enough to put on a mask and play pretend. When Cruz wrote of his violent and explosive kind of situations that were going on in his mind, Kim didn't really know how to respond to that, so she would literally just write LOL. And I get that.
Like, that's not her background, Charnell.
No.
She got bullied for wearing cat ears.
Yes, exactly. So she was just like, oh, okay, you're talking about killing people and animals and shit, like LOL. Because what else are you supposed to do at this age?
Know.
They are teenagers.
They don't have a coping mechanism anyway, but no. LOL is not gonna, it doesn't solve everything.
It doesn't. It may help you transition through some awkward text,
and
which is what she was
be used
doing
against you later.
Yeah. So Cruz actually wrote to her that Kim is too good and that she's too trusting in people.
Who did he say that to?
Kim.
Oh, he said that to her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Because what Kim doesn't know is that Cruz and Cameron's lives outside of these online discussions were growing very dark. First of all, the pair were high constantly.
Okay.
They
Shocking.
were experimenting with drinking blood and other bodily fluids.
No.
Mm-hmm.
You said
blood and bodily fluids.
But then you added other bodily fluids.
Urine.
Why?
Well,
what kind of a thing is this?
Because they are watching S&M porn, not typical S&M, guys.
I mean, like there's some additions to S&M when you come to the urination piece.
They are watching they're watching brutality. Okay. Not S&M in its consensual form.
Oh.
They are on the dark net. They are searching for brutal porn. They've started to experiment themselves then with drinking bodily fluids. Yes. They're doing all kinds of dark shit. Friends had been over at Cam's home and watched him scream at his family, scream at Cruz. Cam was physically violent with his mother, which is why supervision was an issue. I think she was just trying to survive. Okay. She didn't really give him any supervision at all because he was bigger than her and literally could have killed her.
Oh,
and probably threatened it and talked to, and fantasized about it.
She was afraid of her own child in her home.
Yep. They were often on sadistic porn sites. And we know this later. When I get to the evidence later, it's going to shock you. In their frequent chats with one another, so that's Cruz and Cam, in their online chats with one another, they began fantasizing about rape and bondage out in the open with one another in these online chats.
Wait, so they're publicly having a conversation.
They are leaving an online trail.
They could have done this privately.
Nope, they didn't. It was in their messenger. It was in their own messenger online. But I mean, obviously you and I know that's obtainable.
Okay. Just to clarify, it was their online between the two of them. They weren't fantasizing in a public forum.
No, it's their online. It's their instant messenger.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So one day, Kim was chatting separately with each of them at the same time on her instant messenger, switching from one window of conversation to the next. And Cam invited her to a party, quote, party in my pants. Oh God, it is 2000 and late 2000s.
It's a burrito fiesta.
And he promised a cream-filled lollipop.
Did she want that?
Okay. She responds with OMG.
Right.
She wrote to Cruz. So Cam asked her this. She gets on her screen to Cruz and says, OMG, he says he has a lollipop that will last all night long. I didn't know they made those.
Oh, she doesn't know what's happening right now.
Correct.
She doesn't know he means his dick.
Correct.
She's so cute.
Right.
She's just naive.
And Cruz writes back, quote, I happen to own that brand of lollipop as well.
You fucker, man. Come on.
So then
someone tell her what's happening.
Well, she only has her screens open to these two guys. She doesn't
know. Her friends.
Who she thinks are her friends. So she wrote, okay, ... And then she replied with her signature emoticon with cat whiskers.
Of course she does, because that's freaking adorable.
And then she wrote, there is no such lollipop with a cream in the middle. And then Cam wrote, you have death urine on you. I don't know. Then he wrote,
you have death urine on you?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean I plan on killing you and pissing on you?
Well, his next message was, you're going to die next.
What?
And then
out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere. And then Kim writes ... And then Kim goes, oh, what do you want? Now she's in Cruz's conversation. And Cruz says, what are you doing tomorrow? And Kim says, nothing other than babysitting at 3:00.
Which is the one she has the crush on?
She does have a crush on Cruz.
On Cruz, okay.
Cam is the one that's trying to slide in.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay.
No. Okay.
LOL, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So she's talking to Cruz right now. And he's like, what are you doing tomorrow? She says, nothing other than babysitting at 3. Cruz says, I'm bored and looking for someone to chill with today. I also wanted to apologize. And Kim's like, oh, ? Cruz says, I have some things I'd rather tell you in person about the entire Zach fiasco. Remember, Zach broke up with her,
Yeah.
and Zach and Cruz are good friends. Kim says, this is sudden, and I can't help but wonder why. And I don't want to talk about Zach. Cruz says, Zach and I aren't as close as we used to be, but I feel you deserve an explanation. And he says, don't worry, it's not much. He says, it's more about why Cam and me and everyone was so mean.
As into her?
Yeah. And Kim says, whatever happened to Kim, you deserve nothing. You kill your rabbit, haha. I don't know what that means. This is literally what it says, guys. What, W-U-T, whatever happened to Kim, you deserve nothing. You kill your rabbit, haha. I don't know if her rabbit died. Because remember, she had animals in her. I'm not sure.
So somebody maybe had made some
this.
kind of an inappropriate joke about her rabbit dying with her, and okay.
Possibly. So
you kill your rabbit.
So she was texting to Cruz, or she was messaging to Cruz, but I think she was like talking to herself, like, whatever, Kim, you deserve nothing. You killed your rabbit, haha. And Cruz is like, that's what I want to talk to you about. And Kim said, I gotta say, when I saw your text, I was shocked and confused. And Cruz says, but like I said, I'd rather talk in person. I can meet you tomorrow earlier than babysitting and talk about it over a couple of bowls. Remember, they like to smoke pot.
They like to smoke the weed. Yeah.
So Kim says, sure. So Kim then asked Cruz to call her. And he did. But he secretly patched Cam in to the phone call to eavesdrop on the call. And as Cruz and Kim...
Are Cruz and Cam in a relationship?
No, I don't know. That never comes out.
Oh, well, they seem to have colluded in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
so that's why I just wondered if they had some type of
They have bonded
over
trauma, and they have enjoyed exploring all the dark realms.
And now they're going to explore it with Kim.
Mm-hmm. So as Cruz and Kim talked, Cruz and Cam IM'd each other, revealing their fantasy come to life. I'm going to give you a trigger alert.
Okay.
Because the stuff that they say in this IM discussion is not only damning, but it's telling of where these boys were at in their life, how sadistic they really are, and it's disgusting. On this IM discussion, now remember, Cruz is on the phone with Kim, and she doesn't know that Cam is listening in on a three-way. Yep, on a three-way call.
An involuntary participant in a three-way.
Yes, and also Cruz and Cam are talking to each other over instant messenger while this phone call is happening.
Sure.
So Cruz typed, I'm going to rip her nose ring out and burn her flesh. Cam said, why not keep her bound and alive? And then Cruz said, that's what I'm going to do, but I need to get her stoned first and possibly seduce her. And Cam said, LOL, try quickly. Later that same morning, Kim was still in bed. This is going to break your heart. Kim was still in bed when her mother kissed her goodbye before going to work and told her that she loved her. They had reason to be happy because the day before, Kim found out that she had enough credits to graduate from high school and that she was going to be volunteering at a local wild animal rehabilitation center called the Wild Ark.
So her dream was happening.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she's going to graduate
She
from
was
her
gonna
alternative
graduate.
school. She was going to get a volunteering job. This particular day, the alternative school did not have classes. So her mom thinks she's going to sleep in, and then at 3 o'clock, she's going to go and babysit. And then she needed to come home to sew her graduation dress.
Oh.
All right.
Oh my God. She was sewing her own graduation dress.
She was. And the thing is that those were Kim's plans. But she had one more thing that she needed to do first. She was going to meet with Cruz and have him tell her whatever apology he wanted to tell her about the breakup with Zach and just get that over with.
Over a couple bowls.
Mm-hmm. So after her mother had gone, she put on her black hoodie with the number 13 on the front and headed for the Langford bus exchange. Around 10:30 a.m., she got off the bus where Cruz and Cam met her. Cam had just finished buying camp fuel that the boys would later use to set Kim's body on fire.
Oh, no.
The three of them chatted for a bit and then went down to the small brown house on none other than Happy Valley Road, where they went to Cruz's house. In the early hours of that morning, Cruz had told Cam that he'd use a code phrase. Now, this is all like being planned. They were up like all night chatting on IM. Earlier this morning, before Kim shows up, Cruz told Cam that he'd use a code phrase, and that code phrase was, "I think I'm going to make some KD," which I learned KD means Kraft macaroni and cheese dinner. And that's how the Canadians say that they're going to make Kraft macaroni and cheese dinner.
Dude, that's just mac and cheese.
It sure is. We just call it mac and cheese here, but they call it KD.
Okay.
But that was his code word when he was ready to attack. So shortly after arriving at the house, the boys struck. He used that code phrase. The boys struck Kim, kicking and hitting her as they bound her hands and ankles. Cruz stuffed a sock in Kim's mouth, which he then wrapped in duct tape. There are details online of what these boys did to this girl, and I'm only going to give you the bare minimum so that you know how horrific it was, because I don't care to speak.
She was gang raped
into existence.
Right?
They did. They raped her and beat her for hours, and they didn't just rape her with their bodies. They assaulted her with many objects in any orifice that they could, even with a very long lollipop stick.
Okay.
Remember the joke?
I remember the joke.
These are two very sadistic,
apparently,
evil entities on this
because if Cruz was a normal boy, he probably could have had a voluntary consensual sexual relationship with this young lady who liked him. Mm-hmm. But instead, he is a criminal and a sadist and chose to rape a young lady instead with a conspirator.
Yep. They also mutilated her with a knife. And many of the reports said they stuffed refuse.
Garbage?
Into her vagina and anus. And that was including the lollipop stick. Then they put her body in a freezer in Cruz's garage.
Wait, so she dies during the sexual assault?
She dies of suffocation.
Because of the sock?
The sock and the duct tape. Mm-hmm.
Was that intentional? Did they know she would die because they duct taped her?
I think so.
Her.
Mm-hmm. At some point, possibly while Kim was still alive, Cruz sat at his computer and sent her one last instant message that he thought would be his alibi. He was asking her if she was done babysitting yet. So inevitably, because he was
where
online,
are you?
Are you done babysitting?
Right.
Other messages popped up when his handle, remember this is instant message back in the day.
Yeah.
When his handle appeared online, a friend IM'd him that he suspected his father had been drinking rubbing alcohol, and the friend wanted Cruz's advice but grew frustrated when Cruz didn't reply. So, dude, he typed speak. So this is how the police are able to later track down that this was him just online as an alibi, because he only types that message to Kim.
And then immediately stops responding
and then
to people.
stops replying. Yes, exactly. Other people are messaging him and he's not responding
Yeah,
back.
dude, my response is if your dad is drinking isopropyl alcohol, you should get him some help.
Probably. You don't need your fucking twat
But
friend.
instead, he goes back to hiding her in the freezer.
Well, 8 minutes later, he replies to that friend that said, dude, speak. Sorry, he wrote, and you're going to hate this, trigger alert. Sorry, he wrote, quote, the freezer was jumping around.
What the fuck?
These dudes are so fucking fucked.
And this friend is like, what?
For sure.
What does that mean? The freezer's jumping around.
Exactly.
I want to know, do we know this? Did she fight? Is there evidence? Was there skin under her fingernails? Did she?
We'll get to it and you'll understand why in a minute.
God, okay.
Some reports said that Kim died in the freezer. Others said that she suffocated due to the sock and the duct tape.
Right.
So I'm not going to pretend to know which one. But the next morning, they had mutilated her body. And they put her body into a hockey bag and they boarded a bus for the Galloping Goose Trail, which is a place that they frequently met as friends to smoke pot. Once there, they trudged into the woods and under a bridge. They doused the bag with fuel that Cam had bought when they met her the day before, and they lit it on fire.
Okay.
Now, while they were there, Cruz got out his phone and sent a text.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah, I love it.
I love it when
we
you
leave
help
a digital trail.
Cell phone towers ping you.
So prior to this, Cruz really hadn't tried that hard to cover his tracks, but later he told a girlfriend that he had from Halifax, sending that text from under the bridge might have been the crucial mistake.
Weird. Imagine that.
He wondered if the police would trace his text to his phone at this spot.
What was the text?
They most definitely did, just so you know.
Right. We placed you there.
At Galloping Goose, right next to where her body is found.
Burned.
So, great job, man. I don't know what the actual text said. He was just sending a text because he thought that he was making an alibi for himself. But online, when Kim,
my God,
so
stupid
Samantha,
criminals.
Yeah. Well, they're teenagers.
A better alibis.
These are 16 and 17.
I mean, I don't want to give people ideas, but it's just don't take the phone with you. Imagine once they start chipping people, how easy it will be to find them. I'm kidding.
That was funny.
Sorry.
So remember I mentioned Samantha Kennedy earlier, Kim's friend?
Yeah.
So she posted a message on her Facebook page not long after Kim's mom, Lucy Proctor, reported Kim missing because she didn't show up to babysit.
Poor mommy.
She posted, OMFG, I am so upset. My best friend is missing. Kim, if you see this, please email me telling me that you're okay. I will never stop being friends with you. I miss you. Please email me to tell me that you're okay. Kimmy, I miss you and I love you. Kim's mother suspected trouble the moment that she called her daughter on Thursday afternoon when she was diverted straight to voicemail because the phone was turned off and she knew something was wrong. Kids don't turn their phones off.
Nope.
It's always on them.
If kids' phones are off, their battery has died.
Yep.
Or there's something significantly wrong occurring.
This little piece just pissed me off. After dumping Kim's body
And burning it.
Cruz spent the rest of the day at home with the girlfriend from Halifax.
Can you imagine
that I had mentioned
how
earlier.
that girl feels now?
Oh, she's a crucial part in this. Just a second.
Oh, good.
But Cam is a crucial part in a good way, not a bad way.
I kind of felt that.
Yeah. Now, Cam, this just disgusted me. He went and had brunch with his grandmother and mother who took him to buy a video game after they had brunch. Because these poor women have she dropped a dick on the table.
Again, I'm so sorry. It happens all the time.
Maybe if you wouldn't play with penises during our podcast.
Listen.
But you know what? Our listeners gave it to us.
People to grab our comfort dildos
all the time.
And so I'm just playing with the gree because this case is bothering me.
And you don't have your comfort dildo, which I would suspect is much larger than those little crystals.
Wow. Listen to you. No, these cases bother me because I know they happen. And these are these things that you think of with your own children or even yourself when you were stupid and a teenager. Like, I could have put myself in this position.
Girlfriend, this is why you and I went into the professions that we have of protecting children, okay, to prevent shit like this. It's awful and it is hard, and that is why we break up these episodes with a little bit of weirdness from time to time, like
we accidentally dropping a crystal dick.
Penis.
All right, yeah. I'm sorry.
No, I get it.
Okay, keep going.
It just really bothered me that this Cameron kid could go with his mother and his grandmother, two innocent women who just think, I've got such a nice young boy.
I'm going to go buy him a video game.
We had such a nice brunch together. Let's go buy him a video game that he loves.
So we obviously have two sociopaths. and with other significant psychoses that have not been diagnosed, nor would I intend to diagnose them, although I think I could probably give you a list. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I play one on TV. I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I mean, we've done the job for so long.
Yes.
I mean, I diagnose myself every day.
Yeah.
And those are the days that I diagnose myself that I don't leave the house because I don't want to cause harm to myself or others.
Yeah, there you go.
No, Charnell, this
It's
is awful. I feel so, I just picture, to me, she's still the little girl that had the cat ears that went to school and got picked on. And that's all I'm picturing.
And when you see her picture, it's going to break you.
Beautiful little girl with cat ears and a
just,
tail.
She's just a beautiful soul.
Okay.
So that same night around 7 p.m., there was a unnamed young man smoking pot with his friends under the Galloping Goose Bridge, and they stumbled across Kim's remains. They reported it to the police, as good people do, and dental records had to be used to confirm that it was
Imagine that. You had young people who were going to smoke something that was probably illegal in their state, and they saw a body, a crime, evidence thereof, and reported it. Even though they were themselves committing a crime. It happens all the time. I don't think this person's going to be believable because they imbibed something they shouldn't have to discredit them. These people chose to report it.
They did. And she was confirmed. She was identified very quickly because of their actions.
Okay.
So they end up compiling the Vancouver Island Major Crimes Unit and Royal Canadian Mounted Police dispatch and investigation team of more than 40 officers on the murder case.
I see red Mounties walking down the street right now.
I did too. For cases involving teens, the online world is, quote, more valuable than ever, says Corporal Darren Lagan, spokesperson of the British Columbian Island District. People tend to be freer online, especially young people who don't feel any repercussions or anyone watching. It's like when we used to try to get a booth in a coffee shop next to a person we were surveilling. We don't have to do that anymore.
Nope.
End quote. For sure. So investigators kept a close watch on Kim's friends and family Facebook page, including setting up a public memorial page in her honor. Visitors began trading clues and theories about who may have killed her.
On her memorial page?
Mm-hmm. Investigators closely monitored this page, calling potential witnesses on there, as well as on other publicly available Facebook pages, none of which necessitated a warrant because they're on a public forum.
It's all right there.
Yep. So Kim's death is all over the local news in town. Cruz became increasingly paranoid about leaving any more evidence online, but he couldn't resist the urge to share his story with someone he trusted. He was afraid of using the Microsoft Instant Messenger that he had been, but he thought that the chat logs of World of Warcraft were less likely to be saved. So on March 23rd, 5 days after Kim's murder, he told his gamer girlfriend in Halifax on Instant Messenger that there was something urgent that he wanted to tell her, but he wanted to have that conversation over World of Warcraft chat instead. So once they're inside the safe World of Warcraft, he confesses his crime.
Really?
To his girlfriend from Halifax. Yep. Back on Instant Messenger.
True love.
He sends her links to the news reports as backups and proof. The girl was shocked. She eventually replied in the way that he expected. Quote, "I'll always be here no matter what you do," she wrote. "That's why I told you," Cruz said, "no matter how things turn out, I'll make it up to you somehow one day."
So you killed someone, but I love you anyway?
Well, she was just saying that because she knew that that's what he would expect her to say. But then she went to the freaking police.
Good girl.
Yeah.
But
Cam, here's the thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cam also came onto the World of Warcraft chat and confirmed everything that Cruz had told her.
These guys wanted to brag a little.
Oh, most definitely. Come on. Of course they did. What about her family and her friends and all those lives that you have ruined? The girlfriend asked Cam.
Right.
"No, I don't feel bad for them," he replied. "Just don't ever do it again," she wrote to Cruz.
Oh.
And he wrote.
Right, because I don't want you to rape other people if you're dating me.
Yeah. So he wrote, "I promise."
I'm sorry. I literally feel sick a little bit. I'm okay now.
Yep. He wrote, "I promise. I have no desire to. Then, in a sudden shift of focus, he told her that he felt like playing a video game for old time's sake. I think I'm going to play Pokemon again, he said. I've had Pokemon nostalgia for months. Reverting back to those old innocent childhood days where he hadn't committed a brutal crime.
Yeah, some days after work, I feel like playing Mario, like the first one.
In Rainbow Road.
Oh,
I like the Wii.
So first of all, oh my God. You just dated me, bitch. You weed and Rainbow Road me with Mario Kart. I'm talking about Mario Brothers #1.
I know, I played
where you
that
couldn't
too.
even fly. It was just like you ruined my life right now.
I played that too.
Mario 2 sucked. Mario 3 was amazing. Then we get to Mario Kart, which I wrecked my son for years until one week he was sick, like super sick, and he like spent the whole week learning to beat me. Mm-hmm. And so now I won't play anymore.
I do love it. I was trying to pertain to our younger audience that could relate to Rainbow Road.
Yeah, she's literally your age. But if you talk to your parents about the first Mario Kart, let's go older. There used to be a Commodore 64 game called Mountain King. It played the Ballad of Peer Gynt and it went and you had to collect the diamonds as you were going up with a joystick.
Okay,
Charnell.
I did play with the joystick. Yeah, not just like last night with my husband.
Computer.
I mean, like an actual.
Want to take a ride on the? It's a disco stick, but I was gonna go with joystick.
It's a disco stick.
That was super inappropriate. Go ahead.
I know. This is how we break up the.
I kicked your Rudolph slipper with my boot.
So from this point forward, Cruz did come to school sporadically.
Okay.
His attendance wasn't stellar.
Okay.
But he couldn't contain his rage for long. Remember Samantha Kennedy, Kim's friend?
Yeah.
When Samantha overheard Cruz talking about Kim, she asked him to stop because it was just too painful for her. She said, she was my best friend. Suddenly, Cruz stood up in school, started screaming, "No one fucking cares. She's dead. Who gives a shit?"
Oh.
And yeah. Another student had a similar encounter with Cruz where he screamed, "I'm glad she's dead. I hated her."
You're friends. Mm-hmm. You were friends. Did that not tip anyone off?
Well, that's just it. Police investigated these tips, and so they're on to Cruz and Cam. The other thing is these two dillweeds continued to talk on Instant Messenger, on Microsoft Instant Messenger.
Correct.
About the ongoing investigation. And they literally said things like, quote, "Since we killed that bitch and it wasn't so hard, we should do it again," Cam wrote.
Oh, they're planning their next one?
That was just on March 25th. This is the same month.
Okay.
Yep. So Cruz,
they wanted to be serial killers. You mentioned this earlier.
Right. Remember,
they didn't quite get that far.
Cruz said,
I have all of the indicators, all of the characteristics of a serial killer.
Because his own father had killed
one person.
We'll get to it.
Oh shit. Okay.
Cruz and yes, one person that I know of.
Okay, I thought you were gonna like drop some bombs.
No, sorry. Cruz and Kim were brought in for questioning, and the boys admitted to seeing Kim that morning, but claimed that they left her early to go to school. But remember, she didn't have school that day.
Right.
So that's a problem.
Right.
When a cop asked Cruz what type of person would commit such an act, Cruz said, quote, "Someone who thinks it's worth it to kill someone, or someone who's in a fit of rage." That was his answer.
Oh, that's not a good response. You did not do your research. By the way, the proper answer is a monster.
Yes, I have no idea. A terrible, terrible
What do you think
monster.
should happen to a person that commits murder? Like a normal person's like, they should go to jail forever. And a murderer's like, you should get them therapy.
Rehabilitate them into society.
You should,
without jail. So soon police had enough evidence to secure the necessary judicial authorization to monitor and analyze Cruz and Cam's online activities. Megan.
This is beautiful. It doesn't get better than this.
They kept Cruz and Cam under close surveillance, and the police bugged their homes, their cell phones, and even the gazebo where they hung out in the park and liked to smoke pot.
All the places I smoke weed are no longer safe.
That's right. Through forensic analysis of the boys' computers and cell phones, they dug up all their Google and Wikipedia searches. Ooh, don't do that for mine. I run a true crime podcast. Okay, it means
don't
nothing.
do mine either. This is an alibi.
It is. This is what we do.
Seriously.
They dug up their old Google and Wikipedia searches, as well as old transcripts of text and instant messenger messages.
They literally wikied that shit?
They did. Well, I mean, they're teenagers. In total, this is going to blow your mind. Okay. I really need you to comprehend this.
I'm listening.
In total, the tech crimes unit came up with the equivalent of 1.4 billion sheets of paper against these two.
What?
That is how much they fucking talked on Instant Messenger.
Billion?
Billion. That is not a typo. They had the equivalent of 1.4 billion sheets of paper on Cruz and Cam.
Did the sheets of paper have one word each on them?
I don't
or
know.
One letter?
This is that you got to remember how we do text scripts, right? For back and forth. But they talked they had no supervision. They talked all through the night and day. 1.4 billion on Friday, June 18th.
I'm glad that criminals still decide to use Messenger or other type of electronic communication, but it still blows me away that they don't realize that they're all discoverable.
Right.
That there's not.
Well, this was early on in those stages.
Well,
too.
Okay. And there's a lot of apps that purport to not be discoverable, like things that delete immediately and things
They're
like
not, guys. They're
right,
not.
Right.
That's for sure. On Friday, June 18th, so the murder happened in March.
Yes.
So June 18th, they had enough to arrest Cam and Cruz for Kim's murder.
Okay.
They were both extremely calm and somber. Rather than face a trial by jury, the two just pled guilty to first-degree murder.
That never happens.
I know.
Here, I mean.
Well, 1.4 billion sheets of paper.
Right, okay. Well, if they're going for the mercy and sentencing thing.
Right.
We're teenagers.
We're going to get to Canada's sentencing.
I'm familiar if it works like my Adam Strong case.
Yeah. So they pled guilty to first-degree murder and indignity of human remains. Okay.
Well, because they put her in the freezer.
Well, and then they cut her up and
cut it right and burned her under the bridge, right?
So they were sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 10 years.
Oh shit! Mine was at least 20-some or 25 years.
Teenagers.
So they got no possibility of parole for 10 years. I'm sorry, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to be judgy about your system, but
I found this quote really interesting. Corporal Logan said, parents used to be afraid of kids building bombs in their basements, but today teenagers have found a more clandestine. Thank you. Spot.
Clandestine. How in the fuck did I not know how to pronounce it either?
It was clandestine.
Clandestine.
Spot. A digital basement. We spend so much time cautioning against strangers online, but these are people that she knew.
Right.
And it's so true.
Strangers can be less scary than the people you know.
That's terrifying.
Are not afraid online to be what they actually are, which is monsters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've said time and time again, would you go up to somebody and say to their face the thing that you said to them online?
Right. Nope. A lot of people wouldn't. Mm-mm.
No.
With the exception of that strongly worded email that I responded to that very rude person, I would say that to her
I don't
face.
think you would say that unless you were under the influence of the medical steroids that you were on.
Yeah, I was on medical steroids.
You were because of your illness.
I would absolutely have said that to her face. Mm-hmm.
Right. But I don't know if you're on your second glass of orange juice, so you might have said it now because you're highly vitamin C'd.
I am. I'm vitamin C'd. I'm not going to catch any germs here.
Well, I mean, it can happen to anyone, but the internet has certainly desensitized us in general.
It really has.
But we have had horrific murders, homicides, serial killings since long before the concept of any type of technology. So I don't want to pretend that I can even blame social media for this.
Right.
Without social media, these people born in a different time would have killed a girl. They would have raped her and killed her.
And probably not been caught. Yes.
Right.
Yes. This was their digital footprint is what got them caught between pinging of the cell phone towers, the confiscation of all kinds of instant messenger.
Attempted alibis that really just worked against them.
Yes. The 1.4 billion sheets of paper that told of their conversation back and forth. Of those things.
Did you tell us what date were they actually convicted?
It was like a year later before this because they pled guilty.
Yeah.
So it was like a year later that the judge was about to determine whether or not they would be in adult penitentiaries. Penitentiaries.
I've had issues with that word too.
It's hard. So the psychology reports were really damning, suggesting a high probability of recidivism.
Yeah. So this is what we talked about in the last case that we had where It's talking about going through psychology of it to see if they are at risk of reoffending.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they said high probability. Yes.
Cruz was found
Which
to be
we could both guess.
Yeah. Well, Cruz was found to be a sexual sadist of the rarest kind.
Ooh.
Especially for someone so young. A twisted kid who against enormous odds found understanding in another very disturbed boy. So, of course, Kim's parents want to see these boys die for their...
They don't have the death penalty.
They do not. But, her parents point out, like when an animal is sick, you put them down, her mom said. They're not even animals. I don't like to use that word because Kim was a huge animal person. These two are monsters. And she's not wrong. During the sentencing hearing, the Crown's prosecutors played a wiretap that they put on the boys when they were transporting them in a sheriff's van so that they could make their first court appearance back in June, right after the murders. In the recording, the teens could be heard laughing and discussing their hair, their shoes, and making light of the charges against them. And so they played that at the sentencing hearing to remind the judge and everybody involved what they were dealing with. Cam was in the courtroom first. He was wearing a white shirt, black pants, and he had grown out his sideburns to thicken his jawline. Even though he was in shackles, you're still a puny little man. Since being incarcerated, he had remained isolated and despondent. He was plagued with the nightmares of the crime, boo-hoo, and he was trying to erase the memories. He says,
you don't get to erase it.
No, that's the thing. In his psychological assessment, he said that his brain is like a computer's recycling bin, so he couldn't remember anything. The information's been processed.
Oh, he Control-Alt-Deleted?
Yep. The information's been processed, and then it's been gone. What the fuck ever. So he talked when he was in that bulletproof glass little place with his attorney during the sentencing hearing. He was talking about the NHL playoffs.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. But he was still sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 10 years.
System error.
And then Cruz went. He was dressed in an ill-fitting gray suit and tie.
He tried. He tried to dress up.
He wore an owlish pair of glasses, and his hair fell in a bowl cut around his ears. The police actually called him Harry Potter, which I love Harry Potter.
I do too.
Please do not insult Harry Potter by describing this kid's likeliness to Harry Potter. Okay, Harry Potter would never do this.
No.
So the hearing didn't take very long. The boys were transferred to adult facilities where the prosecutor pointed out a more comprehensive sexual offender treatment program would be offered in the adult facility, including chemical castration, a controversial drug treatment plan used in Canada to reduce the likelihood of recidivism. Recidivism.
We can't do that
in
here.
Sex crimes.
We can't do that here.
But Canada, I love this.
They're doing chemical castration still in Canada, or they were then.
Well, it's a controversial drug treatment plan. I hope
cruel and
they're still
unusual
doing it.
punishment. We don't do that here. I swear to God.
I know we don't. I know, but I wanted to include that because Canada does.
It's like slipping some saltpeter in your salt and vinegar chips.
Like you were saying earlier, it's very difficult to rehabilitate sex crimes.
Correct. That was in a different episode.
It was.
What I talked about then, if any of you have not listened, is that sometimes it is easier to reform or rehabilitate a murderer who has committed one murder with, depending on the circumstances, than a person who is a sexual offender. Mm-hmm. In this case, we have people who are not only sexual offenders, also murderers. There's so many things. You can't even compare this case in the last three-parter. You can't. This is a whole level of scary that I don't feel like you could potentially reform.
No, I agree.
And that's just based off what I've seen. And if I'm completely wrong, I throw that out there. I do not know everything, but wow.
I can see where they came to the conclusion of chemical castration because it would be difficult to understand how you could possibly reform something like this. I left out a lot of very gruesome things that these boys talked
about what they did with the parts that they're asking to be castrated,
about their fantasies of not even that. They had fantasies about sticking a funnel in the various parts of her body and filling it with various things, liquids and whatnot. These boys are demented beyond, in my opinion,
Any type of
reform.
rehabilitation?
Yes. Okay. It was disturbing beyond anything I
Were
have
they
ever read
researching
before.
this shit? Or did they
Yes.
come up with this stuff on their own?
They were fantasizing about it with each other. They were researching it, and they did a lot of it to Kim.
Okay.
It was horrific. Horrible to even think of is the way that the family, when you talk about a possibility of parole after 10 years, that means after 1 decade, the family has to constantly go and fight.
We've
to
talked
have
about this before.
family, or to have these monsters remain
Please don't
in
grant
prison.
parole.
Yep.
He is at high risk of recidivism. Please don't grant parole.
In 2019, Cam was denied parole, with his dad arguing that he wasn't as much of an active participant as Cruz was.
No, I think equally culpable.
Yes, thank you. And then in 2022, Cruz was also denied parole.
So they're coming up again.
Each time. Well, no, 2002, because it's been 10 years. This was their first time. Asking for parole.
Does it come up every 10 years or does it come up every year? I wonder how that works.
I don't know if it's every year or not, but
they haven't been let out yet to what you're aware of?
No, they definitely have not. They are still incarcerated. But if you think about that, after 1 decade, which just recently came up,
right?
These families have to go in front of the parole board and
every time.
Yes, and fight for why these monsters should stay in prison. You'll find it interesting that after all of this came out, 4 girls came forward to school officials to tell of, quote, rough, fast sex, bondage, and verbally abusive comments following sex perpetrated by Cam, as well as in one case, date rape, and in the months leading up to Kim's murder.
Okay.
They came forward. So there is a history here.
And they haven't been prosecuted?
No.
For those?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I told you at the beginning of this episode that I would tell you a little bit about Cruz's dad.
Yeah.
Who was incarcerated.
For murder.
Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of information out there, but I felt like this victim also deserved to have some coverage of what we could. On October 13th, 2001, Robert Raymond Deswan sexually assaulted Cherish Billy Oppenheim. She was 16 at the time. She was a First Nations girl in Merritt, Merritt. And then he beat her to death. He left her body damaged badly on the side of the road, covered her with rocks and debris, and deserted her. She was last seen in like a 7-Eleven. Her sister dropped her off there. She had her hand on the door of the 7-Eleven to go in, and that is where it is thought that he picked her up at. So he is currently serving a life sentence with no chance of parole for 15 years. This was 2001, so he's had chance for parole. But when he was caught for this murder, he was actually on bail for a previous sexual assault.
But not a murder. It was
not a murder. Also, his rap sheet goes back to the early 90s for sexual assault.
This kid, in our case, grew up with a dad who was consistently sexually assaulting and eventually led to murder. Mm-hmm. Our kid just started with a CSC murder.
Here's the thing. These crimes all followed a 1993 incident in which Deswan was convicted of unlawful confinement and a breaking and entering after he broke into a woman's home at night, climbed on top of her, and tried to stuff a rag into her mouth. Does that sound familiar?
This is the dad?
This is the dad. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Yep, rag into the mouth. So in 2017, on his birthday, he actually escaped the low security prison that he was being kept in. I think it's called a Mission Institution.
Okay.
And this happened.
I'm not sure why. Okay. A person with that level of an offense
was in low
security, but I don't know how that process works in their defense.
Well, he was found a day later and he was reapprehended.
Oh, okay.
And then her family, Cherish Oppenheim's family, was really upset because they had not been informed that he had escaped, but they apprehended him pretty quickly. Okay. And so he was back in. But this was the third escape since 2004 for this particular facility that he was being kept in.
Not his.
Not his third escape,
but other
just
people.
the facility's third escape, the low security prison. So we may
low
be
security. If you're trying to escape the low security prison, you should not have been placed in the low security prison.
Exactly.
We should evaluate who's getting placed there.
So that's it. That is the case. And
when you started off, and maybe even before we pressed record, you said, "Oh, you're not going to like this one."
Mm-hmm. I want to end you on the words that were sent to me in an email from Kimmy's friend.
So Kimmy's friend that sent you this?
Yes. Not named. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Maddox is the person who's communicating with us.
But it was her friend.
They are communicating with Kimmy's friend.
Okay.
So I want to leave you on these words. Quote, "We call her Kimmy. She was a wild, energetic goofball who was always excited for an adventure. We miss her constantly, and I still think about things I want to tell her to this day. She will forever be missed, and her energy will live on in all of us forever." End quote. Isn't that beautiful?
It is beautiful.
I like
Maddox,
it.
you tell Kimmy's friend that we are thinking about them.
Yes. And thank you very much for suggesting this case. I know there's not a lot of podcast coverage. I know she's tried to get it on podcasts before, but Kimmy deserved to have her story told. And I hope that we did it some justice and told it in a way that was still respectful for her as well.
Gonna bathe me?
I am going to bathe you.
And Maddox and everybody else.
Yes. I apologize if we had a lot of goofy moments in this, but these cases like this are really hard to cover when it's just so disgusting. So we'd like to break those up a little bit, but let me bathe you.
Bathe me.
So I had to bring you a little bit of a holiday brain bath.
I love it.
I don't know if this episode's going to air before Christmas or after Christmas, but
it
it's all
doesn't
relevant.
matter. It's the holidays until at least January 15th.
I want
when we all attempt to take our trees down.
Right. Don't read the headline, but I want you to see his picture. Just look at this man's picture. Almost looks like Santa if he was on meth.
Kind of. I'm like,
this is
Grandpa Walton.
This is Santa's drunk cousin. Okay.
Which is Satan, because it's Santa spelled with a different letter.
Yes.
Letter ordering.
And the title this is from azfamily.com. Man accused of attacking wife with Christmas tree when asked to help make dinner. Don't you fucking ask a man to help you make dinner. How dare you?
I just feel like in my world, it would be opposite.
For sure. Mine too. As you know that my husband just brought us pizza.
I know.
Because he knows we're working all day.
Right. My husband be like, "Hey, are you going to come out here and make dinner?" And I'll be like, "Let me get the tree." Just sharpen the star on the top.
Let me get the tree.
You will not ask me to assist you in feeding the children again.
That's basically what happens in Lake County, Florida.
Fantastic. Of course. This is a Florida man story.
Is, and I didn't even mean for it to be.
Well, it is.
Thank you to Ashley who sent this to us. A man in Florida is facing charges after throwing a Christmas tree at his wife, according to Fruitland Park Police Department. Fruitland Park. The arrest report states that Richard Atchinson became, and it is Atchin, not Atkin, Atchinson, became angry when his wife asked for help making dinner Monday night. This happened December 16th, 2022. We are recording this on December 18th.
This is 2 days ago. You've had time to think about this, sir.
This is the best. They started arguing when Atchinson told police that he lost his temper when his wife allegedly slammed a spoon into hot food that splashed on his face.
Oh, well, that's rude.
She was making soup.
Well, okay. She was having a bad day. He had bad face placement.
Right. That's his own damn fault. She just needed some fucking help.
Maybe
just hand me the pepper, fucker.
Right? I need some help. And she splashes it, hits his face, and he's like,
okay, could she control where the splashes went?
Dare you?
All right. She's not a witch. She didn't know in her cauldron where the splashes were going to go.
We all know. From birth, we're all witches. He
told his wife he was leaving. He packed clothes and then walked out to his truck.
I'm sorry. He got splashed in the face with soup and he packed his shit to leave.
Sure did.
He wasn't very hungry then, was he?
I guess not. According to the report, he came back inside since he had been drinking.
I can't leave. I packed and I can't leave.
And he told his wife to leave instead.
Grab your soup and get the fuck out. Take your chicken noodle and your fucking spoon and get out of my house.
Your spoon.
Your spoon. It's like a spoon, only drunker.
I'm dead right now. It's so true. It's like a spoon, but drunker.
It's like a spoon, but drunker.
A spoon.
I lose the ability to speak, Charnell.
I know. When we have been at it for hours, we have been recording and talking for hours at this point. The arrest affidavit states she tried to leave, but Atchison pushed her away from the door. Oh, no, not cool, man. You laying hands on her. So she went into the living room. And that's when Atchison allegedly picked up the Christmas tree, like the fucking Grinch, may I add, and threw it at her. Atchison's wife went into the bedroom to separate herself from him and to call authorities for help, according to the arrest report. Good job. And that's the end of the article.
Oh, my God.
Threw a fucking Christmas tree at her like an angry Grinch.
What about all of the ornaments on it? He was just like, fuck the ornaments.
Fuck our family memories.
I'm picking up the tree and
because you splashed me with hot soup.
It's
also, just so you guys know,
I call that the chicken noodle effect.
It doesn't. It doesn't actually mention soup, but it just said hot food. So I don't know what she was making.
I just turned it up. We fixed the story.
But it might be chicken noodle.
The chicken noodle effect.
Either way, I'm going to say it wasn't enough to sober his ass up.
No, but I love, he's so pissed that he packs his shit and goes outside. Then he comes back and he's like, I'm too drunk to drive.
You leave.
You leave.
And I will commit DV by throwing the Christmas tree at you, but I will not drive drunk.
In the state of Michigan, assaulting a person with a dangerous weapon is a felony. It is a felonious assault.
Is a Christmas tree considered a dangerous weapon?
I'm just going to throw out there, please don't anybody report me, but one time, this is when I was a prosecutor, I had to make a decision about malice. And I may or may not at my office have charged somebody with felonious assault with a ceramic frog.
Listen,
if you use a yard ornament as a weapon to assault someone.
So a Christmas tree probably could be. Yeah.
It's scratchy. It has a pointed star or at the very least a haloed angel.
Someone throws a tree at me, man, I'm gone. You know, I'd go down.
I will not be assaulted.
You'd catch that fucking shit, twist it above your head, and torpedo it back at him. That's
right.
what would happen with you. But with me,
I appreciate his attempt to not drive drunk, though.
Yeah.
He kept the assault at the family home.
He did. Where those things stay.
Jesus criminy. Right. Yep. I'm sorry, ma'am. I hope that you're okay.
Yes, and I hope that it was
and
a
I'm
fake
glad that
Christmas
this is
tree.
Prosecuted in a state far away from me. Because I have zero opinion on it whatsoever.
Right.
And mostly I'm concerned with, was it a real tree or a fake tree?
Me too. Because if you throw a fake tree at me, I'm fine. But you throw a big, 8-foot fir at me, it could maybe do some damage.
Paul Bunyan. He Paul Bunyaned it.
He might have. I want to know more about the tree. I'm going to guess that it was probably a fake tree.
It was a fake tree.
Because she was able to separate herself and then go call 911. And they're like, he's assaulting
She wasn't
her with
covered in
tree.
sap, stuck to the floor.
Do you remember my one brain Beth when the lady tried to shove the Christmas tree up her vagina at Walmart?
I do remember that.
Good times a year ago. Crime curious.
I'm just saying.
Merry Christmas.
It takes retail fraud to a whole different level.
Sure does. Sure does.
Yes.
So it's
they
not
sell
as bad
those
as
with
that.
the Astroglide in the aisle too.
Here's your loop and here's your Christmas tree. Do with it as you may.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
We hope you all have a great day.
Yeah, sure. After all this, if you want to binge more episodes like this and even better, come to, where are we at? Patreon.com/Crime Curious.
We are.
You could also join from our website. We have a link for our Patreon.
Oh, and
email us case
suggestions. If you email us, we respond. If you send us a Facebook message, we respond.
We sure do. And that's us, like us humans.
It's us. It's us humans. If you go on the Patreon, it's our own human faces. And we do the responding.
We're there. We sure do.
Whether you like it or not.
What do we hope our friends do?
We do hope that they keep it curious.
Yes, and keep listening. And thank you all for hanging out with us today.
Bye-bye.